We are all living on a ping pong ball.
Welcome to ASP Stuff Radio, the internet radio show that deals with stuff that will make you question your own sanity. It's Saturday, May 14th, and today's show is packed with a lot of simulated stuff that was pre-programmed by a group of malicious, evil scientists. I'm Albert Roddle, and returning from his business trip in Europe is Steve Ocrates. Welcome. Thanks.
Hello. What's going on?
Not much.
It's been a while.
Thanks for being here. It's been a while, yes.
Yeah, I've only had to miss one show.
You missed one show of all the past 22 shows.
So now I'm not the Iron Man.
No.
That role is now fulfilled by Aristotle Burt.
Aristotle Burt. I've been here I did have some issues with pneumonia.
Oh, that's true. So then we had a hiatus.
You had a hiatus. That was it.
Yeah. How long was that hiatus? About?
2 weeks. 2 weeks worth.
No, that's not that bad.
Pauleto is out. He couldn't attend, unfortunately. Life issues got in the way. But
life issues?
Issues.
What's that?
He's had to go out on an assignment and investigate the nature of life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if he gets anywhere, because that sounds kind of philosophical.
Yeah. He was tackling some major issues about human existence.
Mm-hmm. Well, do humans exist?
Do humans exist? Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
Soon
so that's
enough.
One of the topics.
One of our topics is about whether or not the universe is real. Realidad. Reality.
Oh, are you from Spain?
Real.
You're from Spain. Huh?
Real.
That's your first language?
Si, senor. Speaking of Spain, how was your Europe trip?
Oh, it was
Didn't you do
exciting.
Didn't you have a business propaganda or a
business proposal?
Business proposal. How did that go?
I think it went through.
It went through.
They accepted the other business accepted my business.
Okay, so you guys came to an agreement.
Came to an agreement.
All right, so you're both going to provide a everlasting structural foundation to support the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. That's where the business proposition was made up in the Eiffel Tower.
All right, that's good. Congrats to you and your business executive partner.
Yep, and thanks to the strong security of airport security of the Eiffel Tower, I was able to get through and conduct the business meeting.
Okay, interesting. Would you like to elaborate on that a little? What do you mean by the security?
Well, I was hand carrying part of my business package.
Okay, so you had a package, a sensitive item in your luggage or your
Well, it was
suitcase.
in my jacket pocket.
Okay, you had your business materials stuffed inside your pocket.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had to decide whether I needed to wear the jacket with this business package or put it through the carry-on conveyor belt thingy.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but nobody else was taking their jackets off with their respective business packages. So I guess I had to just wear the jacket there, and my other business partner might actually know that I had this business package with me as I walked through and the red light and alarm went off.
Wow.
But,
oh, shoot. So the alarm went off.
Yeah.
What did it sound like, the alarm?
Boop, boop, boop.
It just beeped once?
I think it went a couple times.
So it was more like boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, like an alarm
very
clock.
Loud. It wasn't too loud.
And the security guard.
Little red light went off.
Oh, the red light went off and you had an alarm sound.
Yeah. And there's a human backup to stop you.
And did they do anything?
Normally there would be.
Were they portly security officers?
No. What, do you mean like portable? Is that what you mean by
portable security officers?
they were portable.
They were portable. Okay.
They were mobile,
They they were mobile, but they
but
didn't.
not at the time.
So you were able to get past
I bypassed.
You
the
bypassed security.
the human element.
the human element. So
Now,
the
the automated element was working just fine.
Okay,
but
s-
the human element was like on lunch break or something.
they were on break, being portly. They were busy being portly.
Could have been.
All right, so you made it through the security.
This is the iconic Eiffel Tower, and you would expect a little bit better.
Well, this is perfect. So any terrorists listening to our show, go to the Eiffel Tower.
Apparently,
Yeah, if you want
to conduct business.
to conduct your business and you have some sensitive business materials, you might want to head over to the Eiffel Tower because security is top notch over there.
Well, maybe they're fixing the human element as we speak. So you never know.
It's a good thing you brought that up, so we can warn the portly security officers and the human beings to strengthen their
Portliness,
portliness. Yeah.
mobility.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. So beyond that, everything went fine.
How did you like a taste of Europe?
It was pretty good, pretty nice.
Pretty good.
There's a couple of touristy spots like the Eiffel Tower, and since I'm not French, I can't really give the accent. Sorry, but there's the Louvre.
The Louvre.
But I didn't go into the museum, unfortunately. Didn't have time. But I did go walk around. There's a little pyramid.
Okay. Oh, I said the upside down pyramid.
It's not upside down. It's just it's kind of a.
Or I'm thinking of the museum, right?
Maybe you're thinking of the museum,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
outside of the museum, it's a. You see the actual pyramid, and there's 3 of them. There's 2 small ones on each side of the bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty old museum, and it's got a lot of. It's I think it's one of the largest museums, if not the largest museum in the world. And it's got probably the oldest collection of artifacts, historical artifacts. I think it's well over 38,000 or something, and it's got an archive of even more artifacts. And it houses the Mona Lisa, but I couldn't. I didn't have time to.
You can snapshot it.
I didn't snapshot the Mona Lisa. I snapshotted around the Louvre.
Okay.
Because there's a big park there, a real nice park that you can walk around.
Are you allowed to take pictures of art, historical art?
I can't since I wasn't there. I don't know. I think you can because everywhere else I'd been, I was able to take pictures except for one area, which is a different part of my trip when I went to Rome, the Sistine Chapel, or which is in the Vatican City.
Did you encounter any witches?
No,
No witches on brooms.
no, in the Vatican.
Yeah.
No, who said witches?
I could have sworn I heard you say witches. Something
No.
witches.
Nah, it was probably something in your head. But no, you can't. When you get to the Sistine Chapel, they tell you can't be taking photos,
Okay.
even though sneaky people can.
So, what was your overall impression of the way of life in Europe compared to American culture?
I think it's a little bit more relaxed.
By lax, you mean not as stressed out, high strung, anxiety ridden.
Yeah,
Okay.
not so much. They like their espresso coffee. They don't really.
I don't
They
drink
have-
the cappuccino.
Yeah, they usually have like a little espresso after their meal. 'Cause It
Okay.
helps them with their digestion. There you go. But the folks in Rome were somewhat rude.
They're rude in Rome.
Rude in Rome, yeah.
So people are just people then. No matter where you are at, people are rude.
Well, there was a gentleman that helped us, assisted us in navigating the trains in Rome. I think he spoke like 5 different languages. I guess everybody in Europe can do that. It's real easy for them. But he was telling us that people in Rome specifically are rude when compared to folks in the northern cities like Florence or Venice, because they're very proud of their heritage, their historical heritage that goes way back, as evidenced by all the ruins and the buildings and the history. So they're arrogant because people want to see their stuff, and they don't deserve to see their stuff. And also, it was a pretty hard hit part of the world when the world economy crashed.
Yeah.
Probably one of the hardest besides Greece, right? So they're devastated and they're rude.
So there's an air,
grumpy,
an air of arrogance,
airness. But in Paris, it was supposedly there. From what I hear from other people, from America, that Parisians are rude, but I didn't get that, and that might be because my business partner is also has a lot of family there, and so I had a lot of tour guides and people that spoke the language, and I was okay.
Great.
Yes, it was very good.
Very good. We have a question from Hideko.
Hideko's still listening.
Hideko's still listening to our show. So
This is like almost a year later.
Hideko's sticking around. He's our only dedicated listener. So he'd like to ask us a question.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now that time for ASP Stuff Radio to answer your question.
Was that first originally made in the 50s?
That was made in the 1930s.
30s, okay. When the radio was invented.
Hello, ASP Stuff Radio. It is me, Hideko, from Indonesia. I have a question for you guys. Now that Mr. Tom Cruise, I think he meant Ted Cruz, but Mr. Tom Cruise dropped out of president race, Donald Trump seems like he become president. I don't think that old man Sanders or that old lady Clinton stand a chance. I read that many Americans will move to Canada if Trump becomes president. In fact, I researched, and it says that the Canadian government's immigration website crashed the day after Trump swept Tuesday primaries. My question is, what will you do if Trump becomes president? Will you move to Canada too? Will you kill yourself? I know I would.
Jeez. Hideko's suicidal.
If Trump becomes president, that's the condition.
But not in Indonesia. Trump wouldn't be the Indonesian president, so he'd be okay, right?
If he were an American, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's okay then. Right?
So would you? That's pretty.
Would I kill myself?
Will you move to Canada or kill yourself? If you had those two options and orange-faced man became president, controller of the United States of America.
Okay, of the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah,
world domination
for the next 4 years.
Well, and this is something we mentioned right before in our pre-show talk. I would have probably killed myself, but after a coworker kind of mentioned that we have checks and balances in our government, and kind of these more radical ideas of building a wall to keep out tacos and burritos from entering. Maybe we need to eliminate that.
We don't want. Not going to keep that in there. We don't want to
keep that.
Build a wall to prevent tacos and burritos from coming through.
And that's bad. And also to ban falafels.
Okay.
From
falafels from becoming a staple diet in American.
Yes. You need to pass that through Congress, right?
Right.
Congress has to agree to that.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of that occurring with our stalemate-ish type establishment of Congress, I don't think is very likely.
So it's not where Trump says, I want to prevent tacos from coming through to our country, and then he pushes a button, and that happens. The wall's not going to just automatically come up. People have to go
there's
through.
a lot of barbecue types that think it happens that way, but it doesn't. You have to go through some wickets.
It reminds me of high school. You remember high school government, student government, and one of the students who's running for president says, "Oh, we're gonna have popcorn machines in every hallway," and then everyone cheers and is like, "Woohoo! Yeah, popcorn machines everywhere, just like that."
Yeah.
No, you have to go through a council meeting, discuss it with your fellow man or woman,
Yeah.
a group of people before that happens.
But the only risk is because you are telling these things to other countries that make tacos and burritos or make falafels, they might take offense to that, and they might want to combat
Yeah.
Americans because of that. That's the risk, because they kind of think, if you have simple-minded people thinking against other simple-minded people, then they want to kind of fight about it, like, do some fisticuffs over it. But yeah, there are checks and balances. So bottom line is, Trump is saying all this stuff, and this is what we've always talked about. He's just saying it just to play a game and get votes.
Okay, so that's your elaborate answer. You're basically saying no. I would stay in my home turf.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work the way that most people think it does.
Well, it doesn't work the way that simple-minded
folk think.
Yeah.
All right, Heideko, and I agree. I concur.
You concur? You wouldn't go to Canada or kill yourself?
Why am I going to do that?
Stab yourself with a fork?
I think it's ridiculous. Oh, I'm going to move to Canada if Trump becomes president. Then what about Paul Ryan not wanting to be supportive or endorsing Trump?
Well, Paul Ryan is simply stating the establishment view that we don't want to ban, or actually the general view that we do not want to ban Muslims, and we do not want to build a giant wall. If Trump was to take those couple of things and a bunch of other things out, then maybe he would support him. But then didn't he just say, he came out and said they made a lot of progress, and now that everything's all right?
Translation or meaning that he's going to offer him $1 billion check and put his kids through college.
There you go.
So they came to agreement.
They
so
came
last
to
week
a
he was
$1 billion agreement.
He was against Trump, supporting or endorsing Trump, and then now everything's peachy between the two.
$1 billion later, everything's peachy.
Yeah. All right, we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Jeez, yeah, we got these transitions just cutting us off.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything else?
That's about all I have to say about orange chicken.
So I wanted to talk about, this is a big transition from politics to science and philosophy. Bill Nye, the science guy. Remember Bill Nye, the science guy?
Was he on Sesame Street?
Was he Sesame Street or Nickelodeon? I don't remember.
Maybe it was Nickelodeon. Yeah, it was Nickelodeon.
He always had this, I don't know, weird character he would play. Kooky, Wild-eyed. It's tall, lanky. I don't know if he's a real scientist. He's a popularizer of science, but I'm not sure if he actually goes out in the field and tries to confirm scientific hypotheses. So
he has an associate's degree in basket weaving.
I don't know if he's a real scientist. Based on this clip, I don't think he is. He sounds like a complete moron. But here's a philosophy student asks Bill Nye why so many scientists downgrade or mock philosophy or philosophers, and he provides this reply.
Hey Bill, Mike here. I'm a philosophy major in college right now, and I'm looking for your opinion on the subject. Some of the scientists like Stephen Hawking and Neil deGrasse Tyson have brushed it off as a meaningless topic. I'm just wondering about your thoughts on the subject.
Mike, this is a great question. I'm not sure that Neil deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins, two guys I'm very well acquainted with, have declared philosophy as irrelevant and blown it off in your term. I think that they're just concerned that it doesn't always give an answer that's surprising. It doesn't always lead you someplace that is inconsistent with common sense. And it often gets back to this question: what is the nature of consciousness? Can we know that we know? Are we aware that we are aware? Are we not aware that we are aware? Is reality real or is reality not real? And we are all living on a ping pong ball that's part of a giant interplanetary ping pong game that we cannot sense it. These are interesting questions. But the idea that reality is not real or what you sense and feel is not authentic is something I'm very skeptical of. I mean, I think that your senses and the reality that you interact with light, heat, sense of touch, taste, smell, hearing, absolutely hearing, these are real things. And to make a philosophical argument that they may not be real because you can't prove, like for example, you can't prove that the sun will come up tomorrow. Not really, right? You can't prove it till it happens. But I'm pretty confident it'll happen. It's part of my reality. The sun will come up tomorrow. And so philosophy is important for a while, but it's also, I get where Neil and Richard might be coming from. I call him Richard. Might be coming from, where you start arguing in a circle where I think, therefore I am. Well, what if you don't think about it? Do you not exist anymore? You probably still exist, even if you're not thinking about existence. And so, this gets into the old thing. If you drop a hammer on your foot, is it real or is it just your imagination? You can run that test, a couple times, and I hope you come to agree that it's probably real. It's a cool question. It's important, I think, for a lot of people to be aware of philosophy, but just keep in mind, if you're spending all this money on college, and this also may be where Neil and Richard are coming from, philosophy degree may not lead you on a career path. It might, but it may not. And just keep in mind, humans made up philosophy too. Humans discovered or invented the process of science. Humans invented language. Humans invented philosophy. So keep that in mind, that when you go to seek an absolute truth, you're a human seeking the truth. So there's going to be limits. But there's also going to be things beyond which it doesn't matter. Drop the hammer on your foot and see if you don't notice it.
Okay, what a bunch of poppycock that came out of his mouth. Bill Nye is all over the place, for one thing.
Well, I don't know if he's all over the place. He's obviously didn't think his answer that think it through wasn't well put together.
No, not at all. Philosophers don't ask questions about whether or not we're living on a ping pong ball that's part of a giant, what do you say, interplanetary ping ball game.
Yeah.
That's not a fundamental philosophical question that we tackle.
We are all living on a ping pong ball.
Are we aware that we're aware? Are we not aware that we're aware? Mm-hmm. Those are the wrong. He's not phrasing the questions correctly.
Well, I think he was trying to defend both sides. If you kind of read between the lines, I think he was saying that DeGrasse, who's the other guy?
Richard Dawkins.
I don't really even know Dawkins, but I guess they have said that philosophy is blasphemous
and irrelevant and pointless.
So he's saying that it has a use, but it's limited, is what he's saying. But so is science. Science has a use, but it's limited in that you have to draw your own conclusions, right? You have to do your own analysis based on your observations, philosophical observations, scientific observations.
I get that. I mean, I get what he's saying. He didn't say it clearly.
It wasn't very clear.
It wasn't clear. But what I didn't like about his response is that he distorts these philosophical questions. He doesn't know how to phrase them correctly. The way he mentions them paints philosophy with this negative or silly picture. So the problem with
he is Bill Nye the scientist.
Yeah,
He's
but
not Bill. If it was Bill Nye the philosopher, he'd be doing the opposite thing. He'd be
Bill Nye the idiot. Bill is high.
Bill High.
The way that he tries to respond to this question shows or demonstrates his ignorance. So the problem with scientists like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson or other people who disrespect philosophy is that they either distort philosophical questions so that they sound silly, or they remove these questions from their relevant historical context or the grand theory from which they originated. So remember, he was talking about we can't prove that the sun will rise tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. That idea, there's a context, a rich historical context from which that question even came about. We can't prove that the sun will rise tomorrow is an illustration of how it is rationally and empirically impossible to justify inductive reasoning. Almost all of scientific knowledge or everyday common knowledge is based on our belief that the laws of nature will continue to hold, just as they have done so in the past. But there's no way to prove this without begging the question. We assume that the laws of nature will hold because we think that the future will resemble the past, but there's just no way of knowing anything about the future. We can't observe the unobserved future. So the point mentioning whether or not the sun will rise tomorrow is an illustration of how unjustified the principle of induction is, which is a fundamental principle in any kind of scientific inquiry. Scientists rely on that, and philosophers are just showing there's a fundamental problem with that. So, I mean, Bill Nye just takes that out of context and poses the question like it's a silly one, like an irrelevant one, when it's highly relevant, completely relevant, especially in science.
Well, I think
so that's my beef.
It's just a pissing contest between philosophers and scientists, but in reality, is you need to use both. I mean, just the fact that there's a discipline, philosophy of science, shows that you're supposed to use both hand in hand.
Yeah,
so it's an irrelevant argument, or you don't need to have it. I think Bill was just trying to assist mold young minds into majoring in something that's science based because it's more financially stable.
Well, I'm telling
so he could call it Bill Nye the financial guy.
Bill Nye the practical financial guy.
Yeah,
major in something that's going to lead you in a financially lucrative path.
And one day you could become Donald Trump.
Yeah, become president in orange. So another thing, I like how Bill Nye just takes for granted that his experiences are real. He just he doesn't prove it. He just says, oh, well, anything that I experience is just real. So to question the reality of those experiences is nonsense, which I think is ironic.
Because something is real, it is real.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. I mean,
but I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because this will lead us to our next topic. Neil deGrasse Tyson and then other scientists and of course philosophers actually question the nature of reality to this day. They introduced the whole concept of the universe being a simulation, and scientists are actually paying a lot of money trying to prove whether or not the universe is simulated. So I think Bill Nye is inconsistent with his fellow scientists.
Well, again, Bill Nye, the financial guy. So, if you scare people into saying that reality is not real, they're gonna step out of their matrix world, and it's scary outside of the matrix. And so, you want to keep the dumb.
The dung? Did you say the dung?
No, dumb.
Oh, dumb.
He wants to keep the mass. Mainstream simple folk dumb.
Okay.
Dumb down, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. But again, he's sending the wrong message and coming from a douchebag. But people don't see him as a douchebag. They look at him as, hey, it's Bill Nye the science guy. He's smart.
He's cool. He can do experiments with baking soda.
Yeah. Old archaic, prehistoric scientific experiments.
Yeah, it's all right. He's just trying to keep do his media thing.
Yeah. I mean, one more. I just got to go out. There's just so many things that he said in there that pissed me off. That I think, therefore I am. That came from René Descartes, the French mathematician and philosopher.
Oh yeah, I got a picture of his statue.
Oh, you did?
At the Palace de Versailles.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cogito ergo sum. That's in Latin. I think
also got Voltaire's picture.
cool. You have to send
He's
me those.
French too, right?
Send me those pics. Yeah. But okay, so when you say I think, therefore I am, first of all, Descartes did not intend to treat that as a formal argument. So it's not fair for Bill Nye to say, oh, well, if you don't think, then you don't exist. Of course you still exist if you don't think. Bill Nye misses Descartes' point behind the cogito. The phrase, I think, therefore I am, was meant to demonstrate that there is one piece of knowledge that can be known with absolute certainty. Trying to doubt that you exist reaffirms that you exist as a thinking being. And that was one piece of knowledge that you could not reasonably doubt. For Descartes, in order for there to be genuine knowledge, especially scientific knowledge, there has to be a firm foundation on which it could rest, an unshakable foundation. And that was self-existence. Descartes was highly skeptical about knowledge that comes through the five senses. Only through reason and reason alone we can discover absolute certain knowledge. The cogito was a prime example of that. So Bill Nye just takes that out of context.
So the layman or dumb folk or rednecks out there are wondering, can you give me an example of what in my senses? Because if I smell a flower, it's a damn flower.
That's the normal, commonsensical interpretation of reality and knowledge, right? You see red, therefore red exists. You see a red rose.
Well, why wouldn't it? What example in reality is counter or is opposite to that?
Well, okay, so naturally we think that when we experience the world around us, there are these material, physical things that are causing our brains to receive those representations. I experience the smell, the color of a rose, and therefore I conclude that there is in fact a rose causing me to experience those things. That's one standard interpretation of reality. But it's possible that your senses are deceiving you, just like an optical illusion. It's possible that you're asleep, dreaming, only thinking that you're awake, experiencing redness of the rose or the smell of a rose. Or you could be systematically deceived by an evil genius who's implanting in your brain this impression of a red rose. Or you could be a brain in the vat filled with life-supporting fluid. Or you could be plugged into the matrix. Or, according to scientists and philosophers, you could be a simulation. So there are alternative hypotheses, skeptical ones. So therefore, that one standard normal herd mentality that there is in fact a world and a red rose causing you to think that there's one is false.
Maybe, but every time I've smelled the red rose, it's been a red rose.
But okay, the fact that you smell it and see it doesn't mean that it actually exists.
No, it does.
Because that could be an experience, a hallucination, a massive hallucination. Just like when you dream, a hallucination is where you experience things that aren't really there. There's no external object or stimulus that's causing you to experience that. It's all in your head, man.
Oh, only when I do drugs, though.
Yeah.
That happen, or when I'm sleeping. But I eventually wake up. And same with the past 30,465 days, the sun has risen.
Well, you cannot say with utmost 100% certainty that the sun will rise tomorrow. Highly unlikely, but it's still possible.
Because I'm a redneck.
It's highly unlikely, but it's still possible.
No, it will. There you go. You can't win.
Scientists should stick with science and get their noses out of philosophy because most of them clearly don't know what they're talking about. All right. We have. I want to get into this hot topic of the universe being a simulation. We might have to break this up into series, part 1 and part 2.
I didn't know it was a hot topic. I thought it was always a topic.
The hot topic is actually a contemporary version of an age-old philosophical question of whether the universe is real, or more specifically, are our experiences of the world, the one that we interact with through our 5 senses, are they true representations of what we call the real world? But the contemporary version of this is the idea that the universe is nothing more than a byproduct of a simulation, a computer algorithm created by who knows what. The universe
Created by the Lord.
the Lord our experiences is nothing more than ultimate codes, algorithms, zeros and ones.
The Lord
Based-
is a computer programmer. You should have
You're right.
majored in
There's the
computer
analogy.
programming.
The debate the debate was 2 hours long, and it was a panel of people. There was Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was the what do you call him, the moderator. And then you had several scientists and a philosopher. One of them was a skeptic about this hypothesis. Another scientist was actually trying to debunk this theory, or trying to support it, actually. Sorry, trying to support the theory that the universe is, in fact, a simulation. So let's play some clips throughout, and we can comment in between.
So where was this done? I don't think I caught the details there.
The actual debate, where did it?
Yeah, and why was it happening?
I don't know.
And it wasn't at
It was
ASU or something, or
No. I don't know. It was something about acknowledging Isaac Asimov, the scientist, philosopher, scientific writer.
okay.
They probably have these meetings, annual meetings.
Was it on YouTube that you?
A friend of mine sent me the link.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
a friend of mine sent me a link. So I don't know when it took place. It was recent.
All right.
Tonight's topic is the universe a computer simulation? Yeah.
Jeez, it's having
Do
hard.
you want it to be a computer simulation? I mean, this topic is we're gonna you'll see. We've got some highly thoughtful, talented, respected people to weigh in on this. I will introduce them individually.
Okay, so I already noticed the derogatory tone in his voice.
Yes.
The question is silly, basically. How can we be talking about this silly question? I mean, do you get
Right.
that impression?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the universe a computer simulation? Yeah. This.
Jeez.
Oh man. Okay.
All right, so
yeah.
we know where he stands. Although he kind of contradicts himself in the end. But all right, and then here we have, I don't know her name, Zora, a theoretical physicist who tries to explain and trying to prove that the universe is in fact a simulation.
Yes, let me start with you, Zari. Can
Zaria.
you tell me why this topic interests you? Just give a couple of minutes just as introduction here.
Sure. So, as Neil said, I'm a theoretical physicist. My interest is in nuclear physics. In fact, I got my PhD in 2014 from Institute of Nuclear Theory in University of Washington. And the research I was focused on there and at the moment is trying to use the knowledge of the laws of nature, and in particular strong interactions, to start from a bottom-up approach and try to see what comes out in a physical system. And that's actually relevant to why I got interested in the simulation idea. And in fact, by just watching the progress that researchers in this field of simulating strong interactions have made in the several past few years, we started to wonder how could we not think about the universe itself based on the laws that we've discovered, not simulate it. So the way that we actually simulate the universe, it might actually give us hints that the universe itself could be a numerical simulations. And then you would start thinking, well, let's make assumption that if that scenario is the case, and if that simulation is actually has similarities with what we do in our research, and just drawing parallels between our algorithms and techniques that we use to simulate laws of nature, and making assumption that they are similar, then what can we actually conclude about the universe as a simulation? Can we actually make predictions for the signatures that we should go after and test? So that's the approach we took, and it was a fun idea and fun paper we came up with my collaborators, Martin Savage and Silas Finn at the University of Washington. And that's basically why I'm here. I'm trying to...
So the prospect of this being true didn't freak you out at all?
No, I think it's a fun idea.
Okay, just it's fun for you. Okay, fine.
Okay, so do you understand a single word that she was saying?
I understand the English and everything, but I didn't really understand what she did.
Okay, let me try to make it a little bit more clear. Did some editing here. Maybe this might.
Okay. All right. Good.
Sure. So, as Niels said, I'm a theoretical physicist. My interest is in nuclear physics. In fact, I got my PhD in 2014 from it. That's actually relevant to why I got interested in the universe. It might actually give us hints that the universe itself could be, and making something that are study why I'm here.
Did that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm clear.
Clear on that. Okay. So she shouldn't be teaching either. I don't think she should get into philosophy as well.
Maybe not. Not her best knowledge.
So here's I'm going to let my listeners know that my cat Saul is crying in the background. So if you hear a weird, that's my cat crying. I locked him out.
Okay. All right.
And now this is what I think she's saying or trying to say.
Okay.
So first of all, this is a philosophical question. Okay. Personally, I think this is a philosophical issue. Now it's interesting to see how.
Why do you think DeGrasse was hissing at the beginning? Because it was probably philosophical.
Yeah, poppycock philosophy. Yeah. Now, but here's a theoretical physicist who's actually, with her colleagues and research team, obviously getting funding from somewhere. They're actually trying to prove that the universe is in fact a simulation. So here's the general argument. This is what she was trying to say. That if the mathematical rules and physical laws of nature that govern the universe, if these rules or laws can be replicated by human beings, if we can recreate the laws of the universe, the laws of nature, then it's possible to simulate a universe. In other words, if we can recreate the universe, then it's possible that we are part of a simulated universe. So just like if human beings can create the universe through the laws of nature, the discovered laws of nature, then it's possible by analogy that there exists a higher form of intelligence who created the laws of nature and created the universe. Does that make sense?
Now you'll have to give an example for the rednecks and simple-minded folk out there. For example, if you are to create a platform in space that has gravity, the same gravity as Earth, then that's an example of recreating a physical element.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Or if you are able to make a star, or let's give a simpler example. If you're able to make a cloud that produces rain, right? It's a physical, something that happens in the physical world. You're replicating physical elements or laws, right?
Right. You're creating that cloud based on the principles of math, physics, and so on and so forth.
Or technology. You can use any form of technology to recreate it, right?
Yeah.
because you mastered the laws of physics.
Yes. You've mastered the laws of physics, which allowed you to create certain things.
And if you are able to duplicate all of those physical elements, then you have in fact created the universe.
Yes. Right. So therefore, because we are cognitively intelligent to a certain degree, and capable of recreating the universe, therefore it's possible that the universe itself, right, because we simulated the universe basically. We created an algorithm that allowed us to construct the universe.
Well, I mean, we've done that with a lot of things, right? We've done that with clouds. We can create clouds that make rain. We can produce our own energy with nuclear power.
Well, okay, right, that's correct. But can we recreate the universe? Can we create
everything?
Big Bang?
No, not at this point.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the general. I think that's the argument I'm getting. If we could figure out the laws of nature and how it allows us to, in theory, maybe in principle, create or recreate the universe. Maybe not actually recreate the universe, but in principle, to reconstruct the universe, the Big Bang, or assuming that that's the ultimate origins of the universe, then by analogy, there is a high degree of probability that the universe itself is a simulation created by an ultimate computer programmer.
I don't know if there's a high degree. There is a possibility. Right?
It's a possibility, yeah.
Depends how advanced that civilization is. Right. I mean, you don't have to say humans. You can say some alien species out there.
It doesn't have to be exactly human.
Yeah,
the analogy is weak in the sense that
it could be the Lord.
It's non-human.
The Lord, an omnipotent being.
Well, she's going to argue that even if the universe is simulated, it doesn't mean that there's a simulator.
Okay.
So she wants to make that case. But another scientist says that it actually supports a theistic viewpoint of the world. That, in other words, you could use this simulation argument in support of a traditional religious being, a god.
Yeah, but that's more of a technological being versus a magical being. What would you prefer?
Exactly. At this point, it's a matter of preference, because I think it's a variable X that you could substitute anything for.
But we'd prefer a magical being.
A magical being.
It helps us sleep at night.
Now, are we referring to black beans, pinto beans, red beans? What kind of beans?
You know those beans that the Jolly Green Giant. Jolly Green Giant.
Jolly Green Giant beans.
Green beans.
Yeah. Hey, everybody! I got some green beans.
All right.
So we'll play one more clip, and we'll obviously have to continue this debate into next week or whatever.
Okay. Yep.
So Max, you've got a book on this too, right? What's going on with you?
Yeah, well, already as a kid, I was always very fascinated by these very big questions about what was really going on with this reality. I remember actually lying in this hammock I had put up between two apple trees back in Stockholm, Sweden when I was 13, reading Isaac Asimov, actually. I'm very honored to get to be here. You know, it really makes you think about these big questions. And the more I learned about later on as a physicist, the more struck I was that when you get deep down under the hood about how nature works, down to looking at all of you as just as a bunch of quarks and electrons.
And you too, it's not just us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at you as a quark, no, you would come under this category as well.
I am a quark blob too, I confess. So, but if you look at how these quarks move around, you know, the rules are entirely mathematical as far as we can tell. And that makes me wonder, if I were a character in a computer game who started asking the same kind of big questions about my game world, I would also discover eventually that the rules seemed completely rigid and mathematical. I would just be discovering the computer program in which it was written. So that kind of begs the question, how can I be sure that this mathematical reality isn't actually some kind of game or simulation?
So you've analogized yourself to Super Mario in a is this who you are?
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay, interesting.
DeGrasse is finds this very comical. Everything.
Yeah, I like this. Throughout the entire 2 hours, he takes this as like a joke, complete joke.
And unfortunately, all the people arguing for this simulation don't see through his humor.
No, especially Zoria.
I would be pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, what are you laughing about?
I don't know why they even picked him.
about?
Yeah, I don't know why they picked him. Well, that guy, I can't remember his name, but he was a mathematician. The other one was a theoretical physicist. But there's another woman on the stage that she was also a physicist. She's against the idea. But the mathematician is basically saying, well, yeah, things in nature are essentially mathematical. There's a mathematical structure to the underlying cosmos. And so if you think of the analogy would be if you were Mario in a computer game, or is it Samus in Metroid?
Yeah.
So imagine you're Mario, and then now there's a weakness to the analogy because obviously Mario, well, maybe not. Mario is not conscious. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But let's assume that Mario is conscious in his reality, so-called reality. Suppose he discovers an awareness and he realizes that there's a mathematical structure, underlying structure in his world. And he discovers the mathematical relationships between things, the forces of nature, the laws of nature, and then he's realizing, oh shoot, maybe if I learned the laws of nature and the principles of mathematics, and I figured out a way to recreate the universe and how it came about, maybe I'm just in a simulation. Maybe this is all just part of a higher intelligence of some sort.
But before humans came into being, every conscious being or thing or animal out there could not rationalize that, right?
Since the dawn of human...
They were not self-aware.
No.
Right, so that's the difference between a human being and an animal being.
There's definitely an evolutionary component to consciousness,
right?
An awareness of human existence.
So because of that evolutionary capability, humans came to being.
Because we've evolved this unique attribute that sets us apart from other non-human animals, we're able to question our own nature of existence.
Because Mario cannot evolve.
Mario cannot, and that's the weakness in the analogy.
Yeah.
The one that DeGrasse uses.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems to make sense. The underlying assumption is that math is the language of the universe.
Well, you can also say that originally mathematicians thought that math was a good model, a good way of modeling the physical world. It was not the physical. It was not the actual. Math was not a representation of the exact physical world, but it was a good way of modeling it,
okay,
right? Of simulating it.
So are you saying that math is a human convention? Because when you say model, it sounds like we created a conceptual model of mapping or representing.
But what I mean
the
is
world.
it's not exact. It's not perfect. Okay. It doesn't perfectly replicate everything in the world. It wasn't meant to. Okay. But that's a philosophical question, right? Some people can argue that it does model the physical world exactly.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there are many different ways we can approach this. One, is math a fundamental feature of reality? Something that we discover? Or is it a matter of human convention? Did we invent math? Two, let's assume that it is inherent as a feature of reality, and we discovered math and the laws of nature. I don't like using that phrase, by the way, laws of nature. But if we do discover math, then is it an accurate representation? How we discover math and how we conceptualize it, is it an accurate representation of the physical world?
Yeah, and people will argue that it's getting better and better at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is also evolving our ability of mapping reality through math.
Okay, so we're gonna have to stop there.
I think his lungs just collapsed.
Basically the reason. Basically the reason. I'm sorry. Maybe.
Oh, that's like a demented clown.
Paul compared him to the bird from Cocoa Puffs.
Cuckoo for
Cuckoo bird. I'm Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Basically the reason. I'm sorry.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, I guess he's pretty sure that he's right.
Yeah, he's just
and everybody else is wrong.
He's an arrogant cockadoodle.
Actually, Neil deGrasse created the universe.
Neil deGrasse is the father of our cosmos. Son, come home to daddy.
If you are the creator, the father of the cosmos, then you start to laugh like that.
We're gonna play a quick game. We'll talk about the Hyperloop for our next show.
All right.
Although the game does involve the Hyperloop,
okay,
I can give you a very rough description of the Hyperloop. But you're the scientist of the show, so how about you describe in a nutshell what a Hyperloop is?
It's just a tunnel that humans will build where people can travel through close to the speed of sound.
Okay. So if you're still having some difficulty wrapping your mind around this idea, go to YouTube, type in Intro to Futurama, and you will see people and aliens zipping through a tube.
Hyperloop?
A Hyperloop. Yeah, a tube, which is essentially a Hyperloop. Anyway, so let's assume there is a Hyperloop. Would you rather see Donald Trump go through a Hyperloop, or would you rather prefer to see Bernie Sanders zip through in this ultra fast form of transportation?
Okay.
So Donald Trump going
I
through,
think
zipping through.
This is a really easy one, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Trump?
Because I think we'd all rather see Trump.
Why?
So we could see that discover finally if that mop on top of his head is real or not. Because if you're zipping through at 760 miles per hour, that flap is gonna come right off.
Within the first 10 seconds?
Yeah, as you start to accelerate
or
close to that speed of sound.
Or maybe it is real, but because he's old and rickety and orange, maybe those are real hair. But
and the orange dust will come off too.
All the Cheeto remnants
dust will go.
just whoop, he'll come out at the end of his 30-minute trip, a white-faced bald man.
And the tube will be encrusted in orange Cheeto dust.
The entire 1,000-mile tube will be saturated with bright orange. Ride the orange Trump Hyperloop with some strands of fake hair. Now that you put it that way, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, why would you want Bernie to? Why would you want to see?
Because Bernie, did you ever see that picture that Stephen Colbert has of Bernie Sanders? He always looks, his hair is all messy and his face, he looks kind of on edge, just wild-eyed, crazy.
Well, I haven't seen that picture, but yeah, he looks on edge.
So I thought it would be interesting to see Bernie Sanders go through the Hyperloop. To see his expressions, his funny expressions on his face with his hair going all crazy.
Craggled.
Oh! Making weird noises like Larry David. What's going on?
True. Yeah. Maybe, or his flappy skin might. You're calling him an old bag?
Well, he's 70. He's in his 70s.
He is old. Is he old? How old is Trump?
He's also an old
Trump a
man.
bag?
Yeah, he's a 60-year-old man, 60 something.
So Bernie's more of a bag.
Yeah, more bagged. We just lost our elderly audience. Click. Bloop.
But actually, his demographic is more with the youth, right?
Ironically, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why we don't have younger presidents. People running for president. They should be younger.
They should be. That's
More-
that's another philosophical debate.
Yeah.
It's not a scientific debate. It's a philosophical debate.
Which is irrelevant and meaningless and pointless. Why do you want to study philosophy? My pneumonia is coming back.
All right.
We are all living on a ping pong ball that's part of a giant interplanetary ping pong game.
Yes, students, we are going to discuss whether or not we are actually living on a ping pong ball. That is one of philosophy's utmost important fundamental questions.
And we might be. According to Zorda.
As Niels said, I'm a theoretical physicist. My interest is in nuclear physics. In fact, I got my PhD in 2014 from the Institute of Nuclear Theory.
She's a worthless teacher, huh?
I can understand what she was saying. I had to re-watch that thing.
Listen to it 10 times. All right. I think we're there.
Yep. All right. Any concluding remarks or interesting inarticulate noises you would like to utter before we go? There you go. All right, well, we will continue our fascinating discussion about whether or not the universe is a simulation on next week's or 2 weeks from now episode on ASP Stuff Radio. Send us your thoughts, comments, and questions.
Let's get Gita back.
Gita, yes. Send us an email.
Comment, yeah. All right.
All right, with that ping pong stuck in my Adam's apple, this is ASP Stuff Radio signing off. We are all stuffed up.
I hate Donald Trump because Donald Trump hates Mexicans. Mexicans make tacos, and tacos are delicious. And that means no more Mexicans.
Benevolent.
Clear the passageways. What is that?
It's a hard snot stuck or entangled in my nose hairs.
I want to come out. Take it out.
I'm gonna cut my nose hairs and therefore the snot that's attached to it. That sounds like a blockage, overgrowth of hard snot, like a web of hard snot entangled in your nose hairs. You have snot for nose hairs.
Yeah.
And one little tiny strand of nose hair is trying to make its way through all that barrier hard snot. That sounded like
You can't get rid of it.
you basically created your own flute in your nose, a musical instrument. It's a high pitched
You should make
squeal.
a keyboard. Play Happy Birthday to
I should try
snot
to
passageway
use that
noises.
to go back and clip that. Use that as a sound effect.